my senior year, going through a bad breakup, going through just a lot of just drinking, hanging out with the wrong crowd, on my knees of like, I can't do anymore. I can't emphasize this because like the only guys who don't struggle with pride and lust are dead men and liars. And so that's
isn't that the truth?
I remember looking in the mirror and like the look in my eye, I was like, I'm gonna beat this Shane. I'm gonna beat this thing because I'm tough and I don't need but I don't need you. I want to like almost suffer from what I did because I deserve it.
How many guys are walking around with that same kind of shame and that same kind of guilt? You come to the realization of what these truths are early in life, and you've been able to let it go and give it to the Lord.
When you don't see fruit in your life, it's because you're either A, living in sin, or B, God's disciplining you or pruning you.
Whether or not they're like all in yet or like super paying attention, there's just no way that they can doubt how much you care about them. Welcome to First and Focused, the podcast where faith meets leadership. I know you're going to put me on the spot. I don't know what you're going to ask me to say. I'm Mark Greaves, and in each episode, I sit down with business and industry leaders who put God first in their work and stay focused on building his kingdom through their calling. I could sit here and talk with you all day.
Keep up the great work, brother. Lord is using you powerfully. I love you. I love watching what Jesus is doing in your life.
All right, welcome to the First and Focus show, where we interview leaders from various industries who are putting God first in their life and also staying focused on the love of Jesus and spreading the gospel through their calling. Today, we are here with my friend, Mr. William Cox. So,
Mark, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I'm pumped because, I mean, we were just talking before the show. I mean, you're 26 years old. Quite honestly, I mean, you're one of the 26-year-olds that I know. I don't know a ton of them because I'm older than you now. I swing in a different circle of people, but you got a good head on your shoulders, man, and the stuff that you're doing at such a young age, it's inspiring. So I'm excited to get some of that out here and tell your story.
Yeah, I'm here to learn too. I mean, I'm excited.
Yeah, well, cool. Well, let me hit you with an intro. Everybody gets one. So, William Cox, you are the co-owner of Enviro Construction, a vocation that's been in your family tree since before you were born. Your company mission reads this: we move earth with a purpose. Our mission is to build with integrity, serve with honesty, and excavate exaltation. We strive to construct firm foundations both in the communities we serve and in the truth of God's promises. You earned a degree from Miami University before moving to Wyoming, where you worked as a ranch hand, learning to rope and train horses out west. You've invested in local real estate, love working together with your network to fix and flip property, and at only 26 years of age, you're making your mark locally within the church, running a generous business, and leading others towards a relationship with Jesus Christ.
Sounds about right. Yeah, I think it's
pretty cool bio for being 26, brother.
Yeah.
So,
Thanks.
As it pertains to this, I mean, I talked a little bit about how, you know, this construction business and this type of work. I mean, I know that you said that, you know, you grew up watching your grandpa on a tractor and things like that. So it's been in your family tree now for a long time. But what were you like growing up? Like, give me a glimpse into, before we get into, you know, some of the meat of what you're doing today. What was growing up like for you?
Yeah, growing up was, I'm one of 6 kids, and being in the middle child, older 2 brothers and older sister, like I was in the middle of the pecking order. So competition is like one of my, I believe you're talking with actually Jeff about this on your last podcast, but talking about like your strengths or like those internal things that are like hardwired into you. And I don't know if Sam and his prime movers, but he had us all go through the Clifton, the 5 strengths finder, and like competitions, like one of my strategic competition. So I definitely saw that, like growing up, like to be better than my brothers, was that pressure was always there. And then also like them just like whooping up on me and like,
where are you at in the order of 6?
Yeah, number 4. So the 3 that are older than me, and the 2 older brothers, you know, wrestling.
Oh yeah,
that'd be sports, whether it be like anything. Like I was usually the test dummy, and then I was glad to pass that on to. Thankfully, I have a little brother who could. It was my test dummy. You know, I'd like, hey, like you go check this out and like see if it's safe, and then I'll do. You know, so growing up, like a lot of love. Like I have extremely close relationship with all my siblings and my parents, who they just had their 40th. Yeah, they said their 40th wedding anniversary. And all my siblings super close. I think the farthest one's my brother John. He's in Marysville. And yeah, so growing up is super tight knit, a lot of competition and a lot of Jesus too. We're all very firm believers, and we love God. We love on Sundays after church, we come back home and we have family supper. It is
Even to this day, you guys still do that?
even to this day. Yeah. I mean, you might have like one who can't make it because, whatever's sick or going to the in-laws, but usually, I mean, we at least, usually every Sunday, like the house is always packed, almost all of us are always there. So
It's so much fun, man. I mean,
Yeah.
because you can't really discount that enough, because going back and getting back together with family and people that you care about, that you have, time with, that you understand, like, hey, there's history here. It just kind of anchors you. Like, even if something chaotic is going on in your life, you got that, source to go back to, that foundation. That's pretty cool.
I can't emphasize enough how much my siblings have been, like you said, anchor. Like you go out and you get burnt by the flame, and when everybody else just wants to, almost embarrass you, almost put you down, almost make you doubt yourself, make you think you're crazy, and you might be. And then to go back and to have nothing but brothers who love me, sisters who love me, and my parents who love me. Like you can't really, I thank on my knees every night. I thank God for my family and for how close we are, because not to take it for granted, but I feel like a lot of times I just assume that's the normal, and see that with some of my friends. I'm like, oh, like you might not have a good relationship with your brother, or you might not have a good relationship with your parents, or like any of this stuff. So I'm extremely blessed and super thankful for our family and the way that we grew up.
Yeah. I mean, so you just mentioned it. You said you've known Jesus all your life, but I know that you said you made a conscious decision to really follow him senior year in college, which is not that long ago, right? So, I mean, give us a little bit of glimpse into that. What made you want to go all in at that point?
Yeah, I'd say growing up, like, again, we read the Bible, we read all, everything, and never denied Jesus. Always had Jesus first, and always thought about Jesus. Always like prayed, because it's what we're supposed to do. Went to church because we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And eventually, like my senior year, going through a bad breakup, going through just a lot of just drinking, hanging out with the wrong crowd in college, just getting me into just like almost a Band-Aid at that point. Really just had me senior year. It was in September, and just on my knees of like, I can't do it anymore. And the worst problem was, and I can't emphasize this, because like the only guys who don't struggle with pride and lust are dead men and liars. And so that's
Isn't that the truth?
that is so. It's like, and like coming to that, like the realization that and the pride that I was taking on. So senior year of college, like I knew Jesus. I had a bad breakup. I had a lot of deep wounds from just a lot of shame that I carried with me into college.
Yeah.
A lot of shame. And when actually, like, it just hit me, that breakup was like the tipping point, where I was just like, I tried to do it myself. I tried to pick up myself up by my bootstraps. I've tried to be tough. I remember looking in the mirror, and like the look in my eye, I was like, I'm going to beat this shame. I'm going to beat this thing, because I'm tough, and I don't need, like, God, thank you. I know you're there and I love you, but I don't need you. I want to like almost suffer from what I did, because I deserve it. And that was this terrible, terrible idea. So then, like, those 3 years through college were just like brutal, just because like everything was just like, you got to be better, you got to be tougher, you got to be stronger, you got to pick yourself up, you got to do this, this, and this. And then that pride and that really ate away big time at my relationship with Jesus. Because like God saying, now looking retrospectively, I'm like, what I was saying then is that the cross wasn't enough to fix me, which is the biggest lie I've ever believed. And I believed it for so long. And and when I hit that tipping point senior year and that breakup, I was on my knees, and I'm like, why have I been trying so hard to, like, I'm not strong enough. I can't do it myself.
Yeah.
I'm not tough enough. You're not going to fix it. Jesus already did it. And I don't know why I was looking, it's just that immense amount of pride. Like, I remember looking in the mirror and looking in my eyes. I'm like, I'm tough. I can do this all myself. It's like, that's the most
Well, it's
thing.
an interesting thing, because as you're sitting here, I'm like, man, I hope that there's a bunch of young guys who are listening to this, because we're going to get into it. But when it comes to like physical toughness, and when it comes to like physical ability, I mean, you're a big, strong dude. You run a construction company. You've done some stuff. You are like the kind of like the embodiment of like a male persona. So how many guys are walking around with that same kind of shame and that same kind of guilt, but wanting to do it on their own, and how long they hold on to it? I think what's most admirable about you is that you've come to the realization of what these truths are early in life, and you've been able to let it go and give it to the Lord, as opposed to trying to carry it and do it all yourself. I mean, what do you think it was that made you come to your senses so quick?
I'd say the biggest thing is like if you see a lot of Bill, I think it's Wilkinson, the Fruits of the Vine, and I just finished that book up with our men's group. And when you don't see fruit in your life, and you're not you're looking at your basket, when Jesus was going through the Garden of Gethsemane, and he went through the vineyard to show why would he do that right before he was getting ready to be crucified. And so that whole book breaks it down, and basically it makes you look like at yourself, look at the amount of fruit that you're producing. And I would emphasize this to any young men who are out listening, is like, if you don't feel like you're producing a lot of fruit, it's because you're either A, living in sin, or B, God's disciplining you or pruning you, and he has something so much better for you, and he's trying to steer you in the right direction. And sometimes he will use discipline, just like you would discipline your sons if they try to run across the road and chase after a basketball in the middle of the highway. You discipline them to make sure they don't do it again.
Yeah.
And then so the realization of all that stuff happening, I kept realizing that I didn't have any fruit. All this kind of negative stuff kept happening. And then the switch really turned when I was just like, I was exhausted. I know I didn't have any fruit. I didn't feel like I had any fruit, and just burn out. And then only thing I could think of was like, well, I actually need to like look at the relationship with Jesus, because I know I go to church and I pray, but I'm like, do I really mean it? Have I really surrendered? Have I had the Romans 12:2? It's like, have I renewed my mind? Like, have I been transformed? Like, I haven't done any of this stuff.
Yeah.
And so that was really like the clicking point. And I think the guys that walk around, and I'm still guilty of like walking around sometimes with my chest out and saying I'm tough. I don't, sometimes like I just want as men, we want to just control, and we want to like hang on, and we'll be tough, and we got everything on our backs. That's great. And the realization of that, like at a younger age, like this was 23, so 3 years ago, was just that like, man, like it's okay if I don't look like I'm the toughest guy in the room, because I'm used to that. I'm used to just being, I don't want anyone, and no guy wants to say, oh, that guy's weak, or that guy's like, man, he's saying that he has to surrender to something.
Yeah.
He has to say that he's not tough enough or something. Like, man, like just saying that kind of like, kind of irks me a little bit, but I'm like, I know that's the truth. Like, you can't just like live in that pride, eat you alive.
So speaking of toughness, I want to get to this. Like, first off, what'd you major in at Miami?
I started out in architecture, and then halfway through flipped over to the business school, and so supply chain and entrepreneurship.
Okay, which I think probably fits, a lot of skills that you're using now.
Yeah.
What in the world took you to Wyoming? Because you went to Wyoming, you become a ranch hand, right? And doing roping and stuff, and got pretty good at it.
Yeah.
Just take us through that, because I think that your story has a couple of different layers to it, but you have this adventure right after college. Mm-hmm. What was this all about?
That was really, so the whole trip came out of, and this is another thing, like working, again, to emphasize, I work with my family. I work with my dad every day. I see my dad every day. I'm very grateful. Not to say that it doesn't have its stresses and then its strains. And then, no one ever wants to have a relationship with their father. And, when you see him every day, and to be kind of, bitter or anything. So after working through college, my oldest sister, Emily, and her husband, that's when we were building these container houses in Hocking Hills. And my sister, she's a go-getter, like gung-ho, crazy. And so is her husband, Seth, like crazy, go. And so I was helping them, and I was helping Dad, and things were just getting kind of like, I was just getting kind of burnt out and like working a lot. And it was just right after college. And I was just like, man, I don't really know if like, and that's the other thing I would encourage anybody. Like if you guys, any young guys out there that are listening, like go before you really dig in like I would just say, like, because what I did out there, I learned so much, and I had that year was like one of the best years of my life. And going out there, it was kind of just literally like I was just like picked up on the phone, I'm like, oh, like I think I remember hearing about this ranch. I actually snowboarded out there junior year of college. We went on a ski trip out there in Jackson Hole, and I remember seeing this name for this ranch, and I was like, oh, okay, like that's cool. And 3 years later, I ended up just like, hey, like hitting them up. And got the information, like hit them up, and they got back with me like, yeah, like we'll see you in May. And this was like a month, like a span of like maybe a month or two. And I was like, okay, like sweet, let's go. Like, and because for me, like I know a lot of people I don't like, or it's sorry, I have to say, like comfort to me is like, comfort kills. And like to be when you're this young, like you really shouldn't be that comfortable. Like if you're not married and have kids, then you don't have any excuse not to like pack up and go adventure.
Well, or at least do something that is going to push your limits a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I'm a firm believer in what you just said, and I'm going to get back to your story, but people think about like compounding, the compounding nature of things. People like compound interest, right? Compounded, but in the beginning when you're young, compound knowledge and experience is really what it's all about. So don't settle into a comfort zone early in life. That's not what you want. You want to be learning and pushing yourself. It doesn't mean that you should always be like quitting your job and doing something new. That's not what I mean. But push yourself in knowledge and experience, because the compound nature of that and how it plays out for the rest of your life is far more valuable than really any other thing you could do. Don't lull yourself to sleep. There's so much for you. So learn and take some risks, especially when you're young.
Yeah. And I'd say we're not really taught that, though. That's the problem. We're taught to be afraid. We're taught to, I know our parents, at least my parents, are just like, save. And my parents were always super encouraging, never like, but I know a lot of my friends' parents that are just like, it's, kind of like want to put fear in. Like those are like those kind of inputs in your life and the decisions you make they influence you a lot. And in those kind of situations, you're like, well, they might say like, that sounds dangerous.
And you don't have to be reckless. Yeah, exactly. You don't have to, it doesn't mean that go do just crazy reckless things with your life. But like if there's something that you've
always wanted to do,
and it's also in line with your skills and your abilities and like some of your God-given gifts, which I think this was, then you can lean into it because then you can explore those different things and see what the options look like.
100%.
So, okay, what'd you do out there?
It's a funny thing. Actually when I got out there, like again, I'm like, one of my strengths too is I love like being in new places. I'm more comfortable in a room of 100 people I don't know than a room of 100 people that I do know. I know that sounds crazy, but like, that's just, I like being in that atmosphere of just like meeting people. And I go out there, drive my truck, 1,200 miles. And the first thing, which I drive into this dirt road, was like absolutely destroying my truck's my shocks. And I'm like, holy crap, like where the heck am I? So I'm like, I'm driving through, drive like a mile and a half off the main interstate way back into Moose, Wyoming. And I get back there and there's
the name of the town is called Moose.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh boy.
So yeah, exactly. And it is right next to the Grand Teton National or Yellowstone. So like the surrounding, it's kind of grandfathered and there's no other neighbors besides this ranch. It's just completely surrounded by the park, which is really nice because it's just all park around you. So when we would go ride horses or whatever, you're just going straight into the park over thousands and thousands of acres of trails and stuff. So, but I got out there. I remember the first day that I did out there, like getting acclimated. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna acclimate pretty quick. So I just I grabbed my 44, put it in my belt, and got up, I think at like 5 o'clock that morning, and like summited like the closest little mountain that I could find. And I got up there and watched the sunrise. And I remember just like, there is that verse, and how great thou art. Like when you hear the brook and feel the gentle breeze and, through the woods and the glades I wander, like that song was burned. Like that's what I would listen to that song over and over when I was out there, just being in God's like the creation and like how perfect it is and undisturbed it is. It's like so beautiful.
It is crazy when you can get into like the undisturbed portions of nature, because then you could see like God's fingerprints on things that we haven't manipulated. Mm-hmm. It's pretty cool.
It's the same reason like I love hunting. And when I go out and hunt, and when you actually sit there long enough and you can actually see what the woods looks like when nothing knows you're there, and you're like, wow, like this is crazy that like, you can see deers, they play with each other, or you see like raccoons will fight with each other. You just see stuff that's like just part of nature that goes on every day. You have no idea, like you don't even realize you're doing, like it goes on, A, because you're not in the woods, or B, because you're not in the woods when you're quiet and actually sitting there, like nothing else knows you're there. So yeah, but anyway, I got out there, I did that. And the first day we were just like, all right, like there's snow on the ground till May, probably right about now. There's still big piles of snow out there from all the snow pushed up. So from there, you're kind of just like checking all the buck rail, which is all the rails that go around the pasture. All the weight of the snow has wrecked those. So you got to go fix all those. You got to turn water back on to all the different cabins and houses and the lodges. They turn all the water off in the winter because it's just, even being buried that deep, it'll freeze. And then pipes bursting in the winter is like their worst nightmare, digging those up in the middle of, negative 20 degrees.
Yeah.
So
not good.
Yeah, so they just turn the water out. They basically do a whole winterize process and shut everything down. But so basically de-winterizing everything. So coming back into the warm season, breaking up the snow and getting all the equipment out and and then the horses arrive. We get, they got probably, I think 90, I think usually typically is what they haul in these horses. They go down to Arizona, I believe, for the summer. And they keep a couple on the ranch over the winter for transport because you can't get to the road. Either they use the horses to get out there or they'll use sleds. But they keep a couple there and the rest of them they bring in. So once they bring the horses in, it's kind of just, it's cool just to see like the full fruition of just like, man, there's horses out west, like horseback riding and fly fishing and roping. And it's just like, it's the best thing ever.
Pretty unbelievable. So from this point, you come back, to Columbus. And I know that you kind of had a moment where, you joined back up at the company. You didn't know if that was really what was going to be for you or not. You're thinking, hey, am I going back out to Wyoming? Like that was probably more fun, is my guess.
Yeah.
But God kind of lined up a series of events that kind of told you, this is where I'm supposed to be. Take us through that. How did you hear God's voice in that moment?
Yeah. I like thinking of this too as so many times like God passes by and we fail to recognize it just because we're not looking or we're not listening, which I've always just like trying to get so much better at that. Is like, I always say like, well, I wish I could like hear God's voice or discern God's voice. Like some people do. So they just heard the voice of God. I'm like, okay, well maybe you can't hear the voice. Maybe I'm not going to be able to hear the voice of God, but I sure as I can try a little harder to listen and see things around me that are maybe pointing me that way, or what he wants me to do and his will be done, not mine. And when I started doing that, like, it's like the red car theory. It's like, give you $100. Every red car you saw on the way here, you wouldn't know. But if I told you before we got here, I say, hey, Mark, I'll give you $100 every red car that you see on the way here. And sure enough, you'd be looking and counting. So when I actually started to realize that like I need to be looking and listening, because it was in a time where, again, pretty new. Actually, was this would have been like right before I was baptized. So again, the sanctification at that process was like, I graduated, I went out west, and I was getting ready to go back. So I was definitely maturing in my faith. And when I finally started to like listen and hear more, and these things kind of just popped up where I was like, my sister randomly texted me, like, who's a realtor, and she's like, hey, like this pretty cool duplex came up on the market. Like, you should put an offer in. I was like, I kind of want to go out west. And I was like, but whatever, I'll just put a low offer in on it. And threw that offer in. It got accepted to my amazement, So like, oh, okay. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess should I really go put?
Because what year was that?
This was in it would have been in the beginning of 24. Closed on it in 24.
Yeah, because lately around here in Columbus, especially duplexes, they're pretty hot when they hit the market. So you're lowballing it, and then, somehow you get it.
This old lady was like, yeah, sure, I'll give it to you. So I'm like, all right. So I somehow secured that, and then that's when and another thing too, like I can encourage. This is like what part of like my dislocated heart or my holy ambition is that like I want to be able to reach, like, for me growing up, and why I didn't have all through college, and I would have been so much better off if I would have had a strong Christian man to come by my side and, be my Paul and kind of actually pour into me. I never had that. Like, I love my dad to death. My dad is very humble, very kind, very loving, but just not, we never talked about, the birds and the bees. We never talked about actual faith. We never talked about what Jesus meant to us, So it was kind of just like a, I don't know, like a milquetoast, or kind of just something we knew we did, but we never really like dug in, And I craved that for so long. And I looked through college, I would go to so many different churches and could never find like anyone who would be willing to like take me. Like, I wanted someone to take me and just like sharpen me. Like, I want you to make me do hard stuff. I want to study. I want to do this stuff. Could never find anybody. And it really, I'm not blaming it on that, but that really would have helped me in that situation. And that's why I would love to get to go see young men today even. And again, I know I'm only 26 years old, and I feel like we were talking before the podcast, like sometimes I just feel like I'm not qualified, or, I'm not old enough to really be, telling 18-year-olds or 20-year-olds like what to do. But if I can, or whenever I want to.
It's
just
almost like how old you need to be.
I know, right? Yeah. So, but that's really where I came, like that moment where I was like, okay, I have the knowledge, when I was actually digging into my faith, and that's the discernment that happened. Then I found Jersey, was where I was going with that. Is like, I finally found a church that really like took me in. I found an old guy who had a lot of wisdom, Sam, and he's like, yeah, like, let's go. Like, kind of just like threw me on the back of the car and just like took off of like digging into our faith and what, you know, what following God actually meant, you know, and that was like something I craved for so long. So as soon as I tasted that, I was like, I'm in. Like, I'm not going anywhere. This is exactly where God wants me.
It's interesting you mentioned Sam, because so many guys have mentioned his name, and this isn't a guy who's out trying to, you know, create a lot of fanfare around himself or anything like that. What he's doing is just faithfully stepping, and as God introduces men into his life, his calling is to go help you essentially, and me, because he's mentored me as well.
Yeah.
Let's go find your gifts, your strengths. What has God gifted you with? What is, you know, the holy ambition on your life that you can go pursue and find purpose and meaning in while you go explore what Jesus has for you to do here. I mean, it's a pretty cool thing. And
Yeah.
wow, what an influence just like one guy can have. So I love that you're looking to have that same influence on others. I mean, it's been a gift to you.
Yeah, extremely.
I'm going to skip ahead here for a second because you've just mentioned a couple of things. I'm going to read this because this is a statement that lives on your guys' website. So Enviro Construction, this is on your website. It says, it's kind of crazy that this is something that you're putting out there as a construction company. Ever wonder why you are on this earth? Question mark. What skills has God given you to use during your short time here? Pondering these questions, we came to the conclusion that our purpose is greater than just digging holes. We believe that glorifying God by serving our neighbors is essential to our purpose. Our mission is to excavate exaltation, glorify God in everything we do, even as something as simple as digging holes. So you were just in high school 8 years ago. Think about that. That's not that long ago. Then you've been in college. You've been fully alive in Christ for 4 years, give or take. Now, I know you've told stories like you're getting $500,000 contracts at your construction company. You're co-running that with your father. You've got the guts to put something like that on your website. Like, do you realize how rare that is for a 26-year-old?
You know, honestly, the more I look around, it's, surprisingly.
That's rare for 50-year-olds. So the reason I skipped ahead of that question is because your point of like, how old do I need to be to influence others? I think that there's a lot of wisdom that is coming out right now through lived experience of what you're already doing that people could learn from. Because a lot of people just have fear in stepping out in those ways. Mm-hmm. So it hasn't really hindered your business. It hasn't.
Not to, if anything, I kind of like when you say that, kind of like even today, I was thinking when I really started to, got back from Wyoming, I got the house, and then I found the mentor, started to dig in. That's when I really started to like ponder these things of like, okay, Dad, like, what's this business for? Like, what do we need? Really, what are we doing it for? And why does any of it matter? What are our skills, and how can we use that for the kingdom? And that I chewed on that and I'm still chewing on it. I'll chew on it for a long time, I'm sure. But it's like, how can you make your glory out of, how can you make it out of excavation or digging holes or like hauling stuff? And to be honest with you, I still don't know the truth, but I do know that whatever it is that we're doing, like, I just wanted to point back to Jesus. And it's been such a journey, because when I start realizing, you start seeing these little mundane things that are blessings, like, oh, I didn't get that contract. Oh man, we really needed that. And I was really, I'd get really upset, and my dad would get down. And then, like, a year later, the guy who got the contract reached out. He's like, count your blessings. Like, this was like one of the worst, like, we lost so much money on this. It's like, oh, wow. Okay. Like, well, I was obviously, God, not that, but.
What an interesting point that is.
Yeah.
Is sometimes in the moment, the things that we're most upset about, later on in hindsight, we realize like we're blessings. It's like, how can we just go into every single situation, understanding that God's got the timeline in his palm. Yeah.
And if you're a contractor and you listen, that, in that world, it's like, you got to kill to eat. If you're not getting contracts, you're not getting bids, and you don't eat, you got bills to pay. And it's a dog eat dog world. And so when you don't want to take a big break on that, you want to be, like, oh man, that really stunk, we didn't get it. But shifting that attitude and what I have now, and looking at like, okay, when something like that happens, I'm 100% confident that God has a better plan. And I was just on a mission trip 2 weeks ago in Puerto Rico. Same kind of thing. Like the more you practice this is the only way I've gotten better at it. And the only way I know you talked about it too, like getting better at it, just like recognizing and listening and abiding. And Sam always asks that question. He goes like, how do you spell abide? And then you go around the room. Everybody's like A-B, no. How do you spell it? A-B, no. And he keeps going around the room. And then after everyone's like, I guess I don't know how to spell abide. And then he's like, T-I-M-E, a time. Like it's the only way you can abide is time and spending more time. And so where I was going with that is in Puerto Rico, like our plans got completely in shambles. We were supposed to be doing construction. I'm like, sweet, I want to be able to do something I'm good at. Well, then like 2 weeks before, there's some, mix-ups and whatever, like couldn't do the construction before we were getting ready to go. I'm like, oh man, like I got kind of down. I was like, man, I'm good at construction. I wanted to be put to my best effort and use my talents. And then Tyler, our lead for the team, was like, hey, like don't get down. Like I know it's kind of not what you had in mind, but I promise when the plans change like this, it's because God has a better plan. He doesn't need you swinging a hammer. He doesn't need you doing the things you're good at. Maybe you're going to find something else you're really good at. And that was a super cool, that whole experience in general, but I don't want to get too off topic, but that was phenomenal. But it was an example of like, when I recognized that, like, okay, there was another way that like plans changed and something didn't happen the way you wanted it to happen. But instead of just like I was so easy to just to jump on it and be very pessimistic and very, closed-minded. Like, this is the worst thing ever. And it's like, and then after you get done with it, you almost 9 times out of 10, I'm like, wasn't that bad? It wasn't that big of a deal. You're about to get that upset about, or even hurt relationship with my dad over. It's like, so after that kind of stuff happened, and then you see it a little bit like today, I missed it. I was on the phone. My brother called me and I was driving. And I missed my turn to drop off. I was dropping off a load of pipe at the job site and I missed my turn. And I was like, crap. I was like, well, I had to go the long way around, but I'm like, that's all right. Like there might've been a wreck on that road, or there might've been someone who would have hit me if I would have been on that road. So God just taking me the other way. So it's like stuff like that. When you start like thinking like this,
it's pretty cool though, because it's just the truth.
Yeah.
It's like God sees the beginning from the end. He's already watching your timeline play out. Yeah. And I think he celebrates when you take steps toward him. Yeah. And you've taken so many steps towards him in your business, which I know can't be easy. How's it played out for your employees? It's
been hit or miss. I mean, you have the guys who are on board and attentive and listen. You have the guys who maybe no one really dismisses it, and I don't really let them. It's like you're going to sit down and listen to what we're going to have teaching, because I don't know if I told you mentioned that, but the first Monday of every month we'll do a different study. So whether it be we talked about forgiveness. We talked about a big thing with men, pornography. We talked about that I talk about the guys all the time. Talk about pride. I do different subjects. I'll pull some questions out of either Holy Ambition or R12, True Spirituality. Just some questions to get the guys going. And a lot of them are very open to it. And some of them, none of them are ever just very dismissive, but a lot of them are just open and accepting. But the problem that I see is you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Because like what I want to do, I'm like, I want you guys to like be excited about this. Like you guys have purpose. Like you guys have so many talents that I don't have, and you guys are in this situation, that situation, or with your girlfriend, and this is going to be great. And it's like, but not a lot of drive. I mean, all the guys that I work with, again, in their 20s, and work for me, like they're young, and like I feel like superficiality is such a big problem, like in today's and our younger generation and my generation, of just like click a button and you want to get it. Like you just want it to be there immediately and instantly and at the cheapest costs and at the all this stuff. And as soon as you say like this stuff's going to be hard, like this isn't going to be an easy road, like you're gonna have to be putting in some work. And yeah, you might have to read your Bible and scroll a little less on TikTok, but and when you tell these guys that, they're like, oh, and they might leave, but it really all comes down to discipline. My grandpa always said they're the haves and the have-nots. It's like if you got if you don't have it yet, if you don't get it, in your 20s and your 30s, like that discipline. I'm reading the book right now, The Celebration of Discipline.
Yeah,
Richard J. Foster. Great.
It's
book.
good.
Yeah, it is. But like that kind of stuff, I'm like, man, how can you sit there and I tell you, and I'm not perfect at it, but like if someone were to walk up to me even before I was a believer and were to say, hey, like you have extreme talent, extreme gifts that only one person specifically designed you to do, and all you got to do is trust in him and abide in him and be in his word and do this and do that. And it's like, if you would have told me that, I'd have at least been like interested for maybe like a month at least. I think somebody would be in, but it's like a lot of times just like in one ear out the other, which is, it's frustrating for me as someone who I want the best for them. And I'm pushing them. I'm like, come on guys. Like,
well, keep going, because just the level that you're bringing to these guys, because whether or not they're like all in yet or like super paying attention, there's just no way that they can doubt how much you care about them, because this is not normal for an employer to do of any kind. But the fact that there's an actual monthly teaching that you care enough to bring up tough topics like that, whether it's forgiveness or, you know, pornography or whatever it is. I mean, those are topics that not everybody's willing to talk about and push guys in. But just one addition to, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. If you lead it there enough times, it knows where to go when it's thirsty. So just remember that. Like, what you are is you're an example to your people and to your team. And obviously, like, they know that you care about it and they know that you love Jesus. And you guys are running this thing differently. So they might not be interested now. But when push comes to shove in their life, or all of a sudden, like, God gives them a gear where they want more, they want that discipline, they want what they see in you, obviously you're sitting here with open invitation, hoping to try to lead them there, so they understand that open invitation exists. Yeah, you're doing something really important. Yeah,
that's super interesting. You just said that and it reminded me, literally two weeks ago, Sunday after church, get a phone call from one of my friends, Derek, from senior year of college. Yeah. And again, this was kind of during my the revelation of like, okay, I need the relationship. Like, wasn't fully saved, but some people have the argument. I was like, when were you saved? Like, well, I never denied Christ, and I knew Jesus when I was 2 years old, so I was saved when I was 2. But when I was baptized in 23, so a year after I really started pursuing God. Anyway, I was talking with Derek, called me, and I haven't talked to him in maybe 2 or 3 years. And he called me. We used to roll, do jujitsu and hang out, and he would talk about his faith. And I remember he called me and he's like, oh, I didn't mean to call you, but now I got you on the phone. Like, I really got something I need to tell you. I'm like, oh man, like, what's up? He's like, I haven't talked to you in so long, but I'll never forget senior year in Professor Waters' class. He said, you said something before, like it was like before we were about to graduate. He said, you said something in your class. He's like, you didn't really care what you were going to do in the future, just as long as you're in it, whatever it was, it would be God's will. And he's like, it never sat right with me. Not that it didn't sit right, but he's like, I just always wondered like what the heck you were saying, like when you meant that and said that. And to me, like, he started saying this, and I was like, oh yeah, I do kind of remember that presentation. Like, totally forgot about it and thought like it fell on deaf ears or led the horse to water, but it didn't drink. Yeah. Because everyone in the class was kind of just like sitting there like drooling, you know? Oh yeah. And he calls me and tells me this, and I'm like, oh yeah, I definitely remember that. Like, what's up, man? He's like, I just want to let you know, like, I've given my life to Jesus. And like, ever since then, he's like, that's always played in the back of my head of like what you said that day. And I'm like, that's so crazy to me. Cause to me, like, I didn't really say anything special. I didn't like, it was literally like a 5-minute, like, what are you going to do after college? Like, that's all it was. And, man, I remember I was crying. I was like,
don't discount your influence. I mean, that's the thing, is leadership is influence. Everybody knows that, but everyone's circle of influence is very, very different. And a lot of times we don't really put a lot of weight on ours because we compare ourselves to others, and you look at someone that has perceived more influence than you, but sometimes it's the peers, sometimes it's just the friend, it's the person that isn't trying too hard, but is just kind of being who they are. That influence is sometimes more real and more trustworthy because it's more authentic than somebody who's like actively trying to influence you in a certain way. So when you say that, I mean, just the day-to-day influence of people who are willing to follow the call of God and not afraid to have the name of Jesus on their lips, and not just, I always say like, hey, nobody's going to save anybody and change someone's eternity by being a really nice guy. Yeah, like, exactly. I think having the name of Jesus guide you and having people understand that and know that, people will come. Yeah. It's just 100%. The way that it works. Yeah. Well, I want to get into this question because not every decision that you're making is just like easy up and to the right. I mean, just following Jesus and running a business where, you know, God is honored, it doesn't mean that everything just becomes easy. You guys are in a cyclical business, and I know like winters are tough. Yeah. So what has your faith taught you throughout that? How do you lean on God, you know, when every year you know you're going to have a slow season coming up? And tell us how that works.
Yeah, I'd say it's definitely gotten, again, the more we do it, or the more at least I do it, I'm still trying to get my dad. I know I was telling you earlier, it was like teaching an old dog new tricks. And bringing my dad around to it, it's not very, to him, I'm sure that dynamic's weird where it's like your son is really pushing you, because I know we look up to our dads, and our father figures are so important in our lives. And for me to almost feel like I'm like pushing him and trying to teach him some stuff, I'm sure I can't imagine what it would feel like in his shoes, but you know, obviously very receptive and loving. And so like every year we go into the season, we're like, all right, Dad, like, let's just pray. So,
when's the season start? typically?
We can usually get like through December, and then it's the January, the February, even into March, where it's just like, man, it's just tough. And especially after the new year, like you're kind of just coming down off the holidays. The days are short, they're cold, it's wet, it's muddy. There's a lot of money. You got bills to pay, but not a lot of money coming in. You got guys you're trying to keep on payroll. And yeah, I mean, it gets tight and it gets scary. I know a lot of times that my dad's done it for this long, and how he's done it is just to, try, he won't take a paycheck. He won't, it's some of the stuff that you do when you're like, my dad is just the most humble person ever.
You're the business owner. People don't realize that. Everybody thinks, the business owner is like, he's killing it. It's like, no, actually that he eats last.
Yeah. Hasn't eaten less and hasn't taken a paycheck in 3 months, and even through the summer, like it's a lot of it's just like straight back into the company, and he's just very humble, very, I look up to him a lot and I love him a lot. And so those seasons is when like I realized like I'd be on my knees beside my bed, and I'd have to pray about it because I knew the next day I'm like, God, I don't know what we're gonna do tomorrow. Like we don't have any work. We got guys who are gonna get a paycheck on Friday with money that we don't have. And when you're like, I listened to with Scott Arnold, you talked about him, how God just shows up to the last penny. It is literally the same exact. It's the same story here. Like I could just, and I'm not saying like you guys talked about, it's not just being like ignorant and being foolish, but it's just having the full faith. I'm like, God, whatever you bring the next day, let me lean into it. Let me lean into it and let it, be your will, not my will. Because I can't do it. I don't know what we're gonna do. I really don't. And I really need you. Not that I need you to solve all my problems, but I need you to give me the strength and discernment to be able to go solve the problems I have and find, the work that we need. So that was when I was listening to that, I was like, that's spot on, because it gets super hard and working through that every day. And like, you just do it every day. Like every night I'm like, I have no idea what we're going to do tomorrow. No idea. And the next day somebody calls, hey, like we could use some snow plowing, or, hey, we could do some gravel, or, hey, if you guys want to stay busy, I got this, and this we can do. And I'm like, every day I'm like, man, his faithfulness is just unmatched. And, it's almost like I met a guy in Puerto Rico. He's a pastor, and he was talking about what faithfulness is. And he's like, if I asked you to, I'm like, hey, Mark, like, will you pick me up tomorrow at 7:00 at, the corner of this road and this road? And you'd be like, yeah, sure. Like, I'll be there at 7:00. Okay. Now, if you did that for, 20 years straight and never were late and never missed it every day, like that's faithfulness. Like, just the unrelinquishing, just the every day, just the time and time and again. And that's all I ever see whenever I'm abiding and walking with God. It's like, it's crazy. And it's like when you start to realize it, you start to see it more and more often. And granted, there's a lot of times I don't see it, it's still, I've still passed by, but I like in Matthew, and when Jesus, like when he calmed the storm from the mountain, he could have calmed the storm, and the disciples, they would have been, oh, sweet. That was kind of scary. Like the storm's gone now. Like, thank goodness, it's like, and probably would have forgot all about like God. And then, but Jesus comes down from the mountain and he passes by, and then they see him and recognize him, like, oh, wow, oh, Jesus, like, thanks, Jesus. Like, you, like, you calm the storm. But like, so it's like that moment where it's like, there's a lot of times where if we would be so easy to miss it or to not see God moving, when all we had to do is look, and he's right there. You just got to look up from the boat and see, like, don't just say, oh, the storm, it calmed itself, but like look and see where God's working.
Man, just as you're talking, what's hitting me in like the back of my head is just like watching you talk about the way that you guys operate, your mindset, how you lean on the Lord, how you're influencing not only your employees, but your own father and family. What would it be like if it was the opposite? You ever think about that? Like, I'm 26 and this is my mindset. I've sought out mentors who can help sharpen me. I've leaned into my faith. I know that God's got it. My outlook is positive. I know that even in the scary times in the winter, I pray. I count on the Lord for my provision. What would it look like if you did it the other way, the world's way? Can you even imagine doing it that way? How would it feel? The reason I'm asking the question is because I know that people who listen to this show, I know that there's some who are all in. I know that there's some who are like right there on the edge. They're on the line. They want to be all in, but they're afraid to do it this way. Can you even imagine going back and doing it any other way now?
No. I think that once you've tasted of his goodness, once you've seen how faithful he is, And again, it's not all rainbows and unicorns. It's going to be easy. It's still tough, but it definitely, it's a lesser of the suck. You know, I like to say choose your suck. Like it's going to be hard if you wanted to go do it your own. And, you know, like I used to, just pick yourself up by your bootstraps, be tough, you know, do what the world tells you to do, make a lot of money, have a lot of sex, don't get married, don't have kids, and do all this stuff. Like that's what the world wants you to do. Mm-hmm. That sounds awful, you know, and some guys, it might sound great. But you know, we know Satan being the master of lies and the king of deception, like that is the deception versus when you've actually, you know, leaned into God and you've seen him work in ways. I can't imagine. Like I'd say the biggest thing I'd probably feel is lonely. That's all I ever felt before I knew Christ, lonely. And like, there was a sense, and there's the pride that like, I like being alone and I like being tough and I can do it all myself. Then when you go to sleep at night and, you know, you're just like, man, this is all just for me. It's very selfish. Yeah. It's very, very lonely, very dark. You get to you get to these compliments and you look around, you want to celebrate and no one's around. It sounds terrifying.
Is this all there is? Yeah.
Yeah. Just sounds terrifying.
Yeah. Just, you know, quick fixes, cheap money, you know, women, just like stuff that you're just pursuing as a young man that you think is like it's not where the good stuff is.
Yeah. 100%. And I mean, I get it because I used to do it. I used to chase all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, when that's just when, you know, when sin entered the world, you know, and now our flesh just craves that sin. And that's why it's not easy. Like everything in your flesh is telling you, I need this, I want it. And then everything in your heart, when you've accepted Jesus, is pulling you the other way. And yeah, you're going to sin. And then, yeah, you're going to have triumphs and like the highs of when you felt like so close to God. And the biggest thing is like discerning in those moments. The best thing you can do, especially like after like one of my all-time pieces of advice of like, I love like choosing like, okay, if you're listening and you can relate to me and like want to be tough, want to be a warrior, like you start thinking of yourself as like a warrior, like one of God's chosen warriors, like, you know, the breastplate of righteousness and the helmet of salvation, the sword of truth, like that kind of stuff. You start actually thinking of like God equipping you that way and the full armor of God. And every time, because you're going to fall into sin, when you fall into sin, best thing you can do, obviously, ask for forgiveness. And because Satan loves shame. Satan loves shame. He doesn't care about the sin. Everybody sins. He knows everyone's going to sin. Forget the sin. It's the shame that keeps you separate from God. Mm. That's what Satan loves. And so I'd say when you sin, because you're going to sin, the best thing to do is to reflect. Because it's just like after we got back from our mission trip, when we got back, it's like, what's going to change? If nothing changes after we took that mission trip, then you went on a vacation, right? And when I heard that, it's like, oh, the same thing can be applied when you sin. When you sin and you don't try to move the needle one way or just do something a little better. Because yeah, like when you sin, you're not going to say, I'm never going to do that again. That's crazy. It's called a will worship. When you think, and that's what exactly, it goes hand in hand with pride, will worship. I worship my will and my will. Like I'm going to say, I'm tough enough to get it done. I'm going to do it. And it talks about that.
It's an idol in disguise, really, is what it is. Yeah.
Exactly. It's an idol in disguise. And you think you're going to, you have the best heart, you have the best intentions. Like, you know that you're like, I really don't want to do this sin again, and I'm not going to do it. Problem with that is you're all going to do it. It's your will. 100%. You're not, it's not God's power. You're trying to use your own power. And so when you sin, not saying that I'm going to take care of this myself, I'm never going to do that again. Well, you are. So, but moving that needle in the direction towards God and actually reflecting and taking corrective action that way, and then asking God for the power, His power and the Holy Spirit to work through you, because you can't do it yourself. You can't just say like, I want to make the decision to not do it again. And I know you in your heart, and I know in my heart, there's so many times I've said, I don't want to do that again. And I do it anyway. And I'm like, why? Like reflect. Why do you keep doing this? What situations you're putting yourself into, and what needs to change? Well, try not relying on yourself, but relying on God, where your strength, so.
It's so true, man.
Yeah.
So a couple more questions. Mm-hmm. You're a young guy. So when you think about like the immediate future, like when you're looking ahead at the immediate, what are you most excited about?
Oh man. Well, I don't know if you heard earlier, but just got a girlfriend, Angela. She's great. Something that for the longest time ever, like my selfishness and my, I call my friend Jeremy, he always calls it the BC, before Christ. So this is like BC William.
BC.
Yeah, exactly. So before that, like very selfish, and like relationships really never had a lot of depth or breadth. It's just a lot of just shallow. And now that I met her, like I'm just looking forward to like doing, because she's on fire for the Lord, and doing God's will with her, and like with a teammate, like someone like, that's what, I don't know anything about marriage, obviously.
Yeah.
But everything I've read about it and studied about it, it's like you're going to pick someone that you're going to go to war with.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's going to be down in the trenches with you. That's going to be shoveling, digging.
That you can also laugh a lot with.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that's you're spot on with that. I mean, I'll be married 18 years this summer. And my wife and I, we've been through so much stuff, like there's been stuff that we've been in the depths, and there's also been just so much good times and laughs. And as you get through things together, and then as you experience good things together, and especially when you're experiencing things with God together, I mean, the longer you go, you can't look at them and love them less. Every day when I wake up, I love my wife more, because every day, like we've been, whether it's raising kids, whether it's starting businesses, or whether it's, getting closer to Jesus, or serving, or just anything that happens that, it collides with your relationship. It's almost impossible, as you make it through and as you experience more together, the love just grows and grows and grows and grows, and it gets deeper and better. So it's the lie of the world. You were talking about lies, is like never to settle down, never to get married. No. That is a 100% lie, because there is, I mean, other than the love that I have of the Lord, there's no love greater than that of having like a true partner in life with a spouse. Yeah. So, I mean, you're spot on, like actually, starting to pursue that with her. Yeah. That'll be an adventure in itself.
Yeah. And just doing God's will, and I'm like every night I'm praying like, God, your will be done, not mine. Like I want a lot of things, but it's like, but at the end of the day, none of that really matters. The only thing that matters is my relationship with you and the kingdom that you're calling me to impact in whatever way you need me to do that. And whether it's through business or through friends and brothers and sisters. And then on the business side of things, what I'm most excited for is just to see how full transparency. I don't like scaling is like, I don't know, like I'm on the fence about a lot of stuff with this business. Yeah. Honestly, it's literally just like I'm not being ignorant, but every day it's like, God, whatever you want me to do, I'll do it. You open the door and you just lead the way. Like I don't really, I used to be, again, this was BC days was, I read like Grant Cardone's like the 10X rule, David Goggins' book. Like I was just like hardcore, and it was full of selfishness, full of pride of like, take a company, I'm going to 10X it, I'm going to make $1 gazillion, I'm going to have a private jet, I'm going to have all this stuff, I'm going to acquire all this stuff. Sounds great, conquer the world. And then now I'm just like, I don't care. Like I don't care about any of that stuff. Like sounds cool, but I'm like,
if you need it to be big and that's what it's supposed to do, because that's what you need it to do whatever, then so be it.
Yeah, exactly.
If it's supposed to be small because you've got other plans for how you want me to spend my time, then
I'm totally 100%. Like if my dad tomorrow was like, hey, I think we just need to sell the business and be done, I'd be like, all right, let's pray first. And then like if that's God's will, like I have no problem with that.
I do think that because there's nothing wrong with big business, and there's obviously nothing wrong with small business. Neither one. It's like, all right, what is this thing supposed to be in order to go do what it's supposed to do? Right. And not for us, for him. Yeah, exactly. And if you're thinking that way, you're thinking in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's I could go any direction possible, and a lot of times it freaks people out, or people want to try to. One of my number one strengths is strategy. Like I want to make the biggest impact for whatever we're good for. Yeah, but I've had to learn to like let the reins off, because your plan is far inferior to God's.
I'm walking proof of that. Yeah. What would you say to the guy who's maybe listening that isn't the co-owner of their business, like doesn't have like an ownership influence like you do, that wants to live fully for Christ and integrate his faith while he's at work, but he can't just, have a Bible study with everybody because it's not his business. Yeah. I don't know if have you met Greg Stelmack? Yeah. Okay. Greg. Insperity. Yeah. Yeah. And Greg is like, so we always talk about it. He's in like covert op, right? Like he's at work discipling his team of 12 people or whatever, like every couple months, but discipling them, and they don't even know it. He never says Jesus, never says his stuff,
And it's crazy because all you have to do, and again, this is for the guy out there who maybe if you don't know how to start incorporating it at work, I would say just like curiosity. Again, like I was talking about earlier, like going up to someone and telling them like, hey, like what are your strengths? Like what are you really good at? What are some things you struggle at? And like getting people curious about like their identity. And then that goes into a whole other topic and talk about today and how the culture tries to just like wipe our identity and like tries to, obviously from birth, like trying to confuse kids who's who and like all this stuff. There's just so much confusion. Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? Really, it's broken into, your life experience, your work experience, your strengths, and your spiritual gifts, like those 4 on the stool. And just getting people curious about that. Like people were like going up, like if I would have met you and, you weren't a believer, I'd be like, hey, did you know that like you have some serious strengths in some areas? And like, have you ever been curious about like what you could do with those or like, where you might be able to apply them? And, if they're not Christian and they don't believe in God, then you start, you can take it a little step farther and be like, how do you think you got there? Or like, do you think not everybody has that? You're uniquely and fearfully created, wonderfully made, and starting to just weave in like stuff with, maybe some of your coworkers, like outside of work. And then at work, a bigger scale, like I'd say, like leading by example. Like I'd assume you can still pray at work. Like I pray before all my meals, like setting that example of standard of like get people curious. Like, and then you were talking about earlier, like witnessing. I think that like too, like just being like a witness of like someone knows like everyone's always like, oh man, like that guy, he always just seems so calm, or like I know he's got a great wife and great kids, and maybe I'm not doing so great. Like I wonder what he's doing that I'm not. Well, not to say that like if you're a Christian, you're gonna have like all this perfect family life and all this stuff, but there's just a peace like in your heart, like when crap hits the fan, and you have like the peace, and like people will recognize that and be like, well, I want that. And it's like then be able to give that to them.
Dude, you're hitting on some really good stuff. I mean, nobody could ever stop you from praying personally.
Yeah.
So just right then and there, you're displaying that like I believe in something,
right?
That I know that I put my trust in and my faith in, and by praying and not being afraid to show it, that's on full display. Mm-hmm. I also think that just by default, people are in conversation. You just mentioned it all the time. We're always in conversation. There's stuff going on while we're at work. There's stuff going on in people's lives. Nobody can stop you from sharing how you get through it. It doesn't mean you need to say like, hey, here's what you need to do. But you can also always turn it back and say, hey, man, listen, I'm going through it too. I work here too. Or, hey, I've gone through it in the past. I mean, the thing that helped me the most is I lean into my faith. Like, I know that I'm not in full control. I trust what God says, and I trust his promises, and I lean into that. Then they might say, really? What's that like? You don't know what they're going to say next. Or they could say, well, that's stupid. And you can be like, well, maybe you think so, but it's really worked for me. If you're ever curious about it, let me know. It can be simple stuff, but it doesn't need to be this profound, thing.
Oh yeah.
The simple is usually the thing that gets to people the best because it's easy to understand.
Oh, 100%. And I'd say another thing too, I learned on my mission trip, the power of testimony. Okay. Now that you said that, like that was like, that's like very, like that is like hands down. I saw people give their life to Jesus, which I never really saw before. Like you always heard about it, or you see people in the church, like, hey, I didn't say it, like it's great. But to see someone on the streets, like we're in Puerto Rico, and to see someone just like break down and like, I want to give my life to Jesus. And it's like, oh man, like seeing that is like crazy, mind blowing. And happened a couple of times. But I say majority of the time, it was like when someone would share what Jesus meant to them, because there's no changing that. There's no denying that. You can't say that that's not true when someone shares their testimony. And so I would definitely say like testimony, if you like the conversations you have every day, if you have an opportunity to share your testimony with somebody, even if, and another big thing too, is like one thing I learned on that trip too, is like my testimony, I found that I was in some areas of my life or in some areas of my testimony, I would try to maybe like bump up to buddy, this is not right. Do not do this, because I learned fast. I've never really done it before, but when I was talking to these people and having a translator in Spanish, I was trying to relate to them the most, because I'm like, I really want them to accept the Lord. And they said that they had a bad relationship with their dad. And I would throw in like, well, I had a rocky relationship with my dad too. And I'm like, that's not true. I lied and I shouldn't have done that. But like that realization of like, I just thought my testimony wasn't that cool. That's where that came from. And realizing that like, man, like everyone else has such cool testimonies, and my testimony is not that cool. That's Satan working. And again, I'm glad I caught it and someone called me out on it. and was like, hey, like, don't do that. Like that's foolish. And I'm like, you're right.
Man, that's such a good point, because a lot of people think that you have to have this profound transformation, like a Saul to Paul moment.
Oh yeah.
Well, part of your story is I grew up in a family who loved me, who loved God. And I'm a product of, you know, a mother and a father and in a large family of 6 believers. And this is kind of the testimony of, like, I still had to go through the testing of my faith. I still had to go through the fire of what do I actually believe as I became an adult? What do I want to go live out? But this is what's true about if you go live in God's word, is like, why not have a loving father and a good mother and siblings who grow up loving the Lord? That's what's supposed to happen. My testimony is I'm a product of my parents' faith.
Right.
Like, I think it's a fantastic testimony. That's what we're all aspiring to.
Yeah.
And hopefully, if like whoever's adopting these rules and principles and following the ways of Jesus, your kids have the same testimony as I do.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of my testimony. Is my mom and dad believed in Jesus, and they did everything that they could to make sure that we knew him. And but now guess what? I'm the oldest of 6 kids. Everybody believes in Jesus and was raising their kids as believers. Like, what a cool testimony.
Yeah.
That's what I want for my kids too.
Yeah. And that's, I was just like, I would always just bought into the lie, and especially hearing everyone else on that trip. I'm like, whoa, like there's some, you know, guys are really cool. Like mine's just not that cool at all. And it's like, I was deceived. And, you know, it's like you were saying, like what better testimony than anyone's, obviously, but like to have one that's like, yeah, like God's been faithful my life, and like, and I'm still showing up, you know. So I would definitely encourage like anybody, like the power of your testimony is so no one can deny that, and to have the opportunity to share that with somebody, let it rip. Like that'll change someone's life. Like just hearing that, I can't deny that.
Well, I think it's cool, man, because just watching, you know, since I've come to know you, just the bold steps that you've taken, the stuff that you're doing. I mean, whether it's putting it out there on the website with your team, with your dad, I mean, just you're not backing down. I feel like it's just growing, and I feel like it's just becoming even more of a part of you. So
thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks for being a good example for others and doing everything that you're doing. And I'll put links to, you know, obviously your bio and then everything that you guys are doing with Enviro and all the show notes. But
yeah,
dude, I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, this is super fun. I'm looking forward to this. And I had the thing, I was like, man, coming into this, you know, how I was like, man, I'm just not old enough, you know, I can't be telling anybody yet. I don't really have that much wisdom to share. And then I was like, well, I'll make sure that I mention to Mark, like 10 years, we can redo this podcast or whatever. And then we'll talk and we'll see if, you know, see if I got anything else.
Dude, the hard part is in 10 years, you're not even going to be as old as I am. In 10 years, you'll be 36. Let's see. I'll be 52, buddy.
Oh, man.
So
you'll be right over the hill.
Yeah.
You'll be primed. You'll still be learning. Like, I think that.
Oh, I'll be in my prime, man. Yeah. My hairline will be a little bit higher again. And you know, who knows what I'll be looking like.
But that's what you were talking about with one of the guys before too, is just like not like never stop learning. Like the other thing too, like getting guys interested. Like if somebody's at work and you want just be willing to learn. And like that's one of the biggest things I look for is employees. Like, can you show up on time? Do you love Jesus? If not, I'll make you love Jesus. And then and number 3, like, are you willing to learn? Are you teachable and malleable? Like, because like you're saying, like, 50 years, like when I'm 50, I know I'm still going to be, like, at least I hope I'm still going to be learning and studying and all this stuff. And it's like, if you really think about it, we're going to be doing that till we die. So we're going to be learning all the way. So
that's right. Yeah. We'll never get there, but hopefully we just keep getting closer.
Right. So,
well,
thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for doing it. Loved our time together.
Yeah.
If you guys want access to more resources, whether it's books, the newsletter, or prior episodes, you can get it at markgreaves.com. But all right, we're over and out.
Over and out. Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, man. Thank you for watching the First in Focus show. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to hit like, subscribe, and then share with a friend.